Welcome to Economics Trainer. This video was made to help you strengthen your skills in microeconomics. Here we have a sample question, care of brighttutoring.ca. It's the kind of question you'd expect to see on a test in a second-year microeconomics class. Let's work through it together. So here's the question. Suppose we have a producer with a production function of output Q equals to L to the 0.3, K to the 0.3, which gives them the marginal product of labor equal to 0.3, L to the negative 0.7, K to the 0.3, and a marginal product of capital K equal to 0.3, L to the 0.3, K to the negative 0.7. They also have an operating budget of $100 to produce their output. And what we have to figure out here in these questions, for the first question, we have to find their optimal input bundle, L star and K star, when the wage rate is $5 and the rental rate is $1. And then similarly in the next question, we have to do the same thing, but we can see here the wage rate is going to decrease down to $1 and the rental rate will stay the same. And then once we have those two answers here, we'll use those two bundles to find the slope and choke point for the producer's inverted linear demand curve for labor. So let's start off with the first question and find these points here. So to find the optimal input bundle, we're going to start off with the tangency condition, MPL over MPK equals W over R. So let's plug in all the equations here. So the MPL was 0.3, L to the negative 0.7, K to the 0.3. And the MPK was very similar, different exponents. We had L to the 0.3, K to the negative 0.7. And in the first question, we have a wage rate equal to 5 and a rental rate equal to 1. So let's see here, we can solve this out here. The 0.3's cancel. And then we just have to do some exponent math. We have to subtract the exponents here. So let's see, negative 0.7 minus 0.3, that'll be minus 1, or have an L on the bottom. And then for K capital here, we have 0.3 minus 0.7, so it's going to go positive, so it'll be positive 1, or just K. And then over here on this side, you just have 5. So what we get here is K equals 5L. So that'll be the first equation. And the next part, we have to use that operating budget of $100 in our total cost equation, which is going to be the labor cost, WL, and the capital cost, RK. So we plug in the 100 here for the operating budget. The wage rate was 5. We have 1 for the rental rate here. And then for capital, this is where we can plug in this equation down here and say, okay, capital equals 5 times labor. So that's going to be 5L. So let's see here, we have 100 equals 5L plus 5L, so that'll be 10L. So your optimal labor here, for the first question, L star 1, it's going to be 10. And then once we have that, we can plug it back into the equation over here and say, okay, K is just 5 times L, so your optimal capital here is going to be 50. So what this gives us here is 1 point on the labor demand curve, because we have an L of 10, and that goes with the wage rate here equal to 5. So that's going to be our first point there for the later part of the question. So what we have here is K is 50.
L is 10. And the next part, we do a similar thing. We do the same thing. We just change the wage rate here down to 1 and then see how the answer changes. So we're going to do the same process as we do over here. We just have to change the W to a 1 wherever we see it here. So when we do this part here, the MPL over MPK part, it's going to be the same on the left-hand side. So we're going to have just K over L. And then here on the right-hand side, it's going to be W over R, which is 1 over 1. So now the tangency condition changes to just be K equals L. And then we'll take that and we'll plug it into the same total cost equation. The operating budget is the same. You still have $100. We just change the 5 to a 1 here. So we have 1L, which is just L, and plus 1 times K, and K equals L. So it'll just be another L. So we get 2L. So the L star on the second one, 100 divided by 2, which is going to be 50. And then likewise, we plug it back in here. We say, okay, K equals L, so it'll be the same thing. So we have K star 2 is also 50. So here with the second question, this is going to be 50 for the L when we have a W equals to 1. And that here gives us point number 2. So here we have 50-50 as the second question. So let's see here, 50 and 50. And then we're going to use these 2 points here to figure out the third part here to find the labor demand curve. So if we take these 2 points here and we graph them out, we can say, okay, we have point 1 and point 2 here in the wage labor space. So you can see here the first one, we have L of 10 and a W of 5. So that'd be our first point here, point 1. And then for the second point, we have an L2 of 50. Let's put it out here. And that's going to be a W of 1. So that'll be our second point here. So if we put a line through those points, this is going to be the labor demand. So let's figure that out over here. So we say, okay, our labor demand curve, just it's an equation of line, y equals mx plus b. We just have to change the notation. So we're going to have y equals mx, so it's going to be ml, and then plus b for the choke point up here. So here we just do equation of a line. You say, okay, we figured our slope, which is rise over run. So y2 minus y1, or w2, so w2, which is 1, minus w1, which is 5, over x2, which is L2, minus L1. So here on the top, we have minus 4. On the bottom, let's see, 50 minus 10 is 40. So this is going to be minus 1 over 10 as the slope. And then to figure out the intercept here, we can just use either point, doesn't matter. Let's use the first point here. We say, okay, W is 5. We know our slope is negative 1 over 10. The L here is 10. And then plus B. So we see, okay, the 10s will cancel. So you just have minus 1, so move that over, and we get 6 is B. That's going to be this point up here. So if we take these two things together, we can get our labor demand curve and say, okay, well, W equals, the B is going to be 6 minus 1 over 10 labor demanded, LD. So this here will be the equation of that line there. So we can see here the choke price for the wage rate is going to be 6, and the slope is negative 0.1. And that's how you do that question. This video is brought to you by people who like, share, and subscribe to this channel. You can also support my work by buying me a coffee.